girlfriend is all that I want. She's tripping my heartbeat and it's leading me on. Took a shot now thinking you'd be the one in my...
Hello everybody and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 711 with our review of I Love My Dad. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a streaming platform near you. Stephen Miller, it's been a long time since we've sat down to record a podcast. We both took some vacations that sort of overlapped, but didn't fully overlap. Then we took another trip over a weekend together. The first two weren't together. I have no idea.
Thank you for driving me to Maine, by the way. It really meant a lot to me.
But yeah, it feels weird to be back sitting down to record. I mean, technically this doesn't feel any different than any of our normal work meetings because I'm sitting at the same computer on the same everything. But it's good to be back and recording a podcast again.
Yeah, but I got to be honest. I'm awkward over video. I'm more comfortable over text, and I'm afraid that you're not going to like me and you're not going to think I'm as funny when I'm talking in front of a microphone. And so if we could just record this podcast over text for the next year, that'd be really great for me.
Oh man, if we could record this over text, then I would be able to release that episode of Extraction that that shall never see the light of day.
I think you're overestimating how well you could type after that much beer.
Well, I mean, I'd be typing it now. That's the difference, right? As I do the recording, the drunk version of me, no one ever hears because I type out the sober version of me now after the fact.
Yeah, that is true. Wow, we'd get all the lost episodes. We get the Homesman finally. I don't remember. I know there are others, but
yeah,
that's the one that comes to mind.
There's a few pretty prestigious films.
Nightmare Alley. Did we ever release that one?
Yeah, we 100%. That was episode 694. That episode is definitely out. It is available.
With Aloha, did we ever release Aloha? I think we did.
I mean, I don't think the studio wishes they released Aloha. Actually, to be fair, I'm pretty sure Aloha is one I bailed out of mid-recording.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Extraction, I found out during the edit process that it was unreleasable. Yep. Aloha, I think we just quit partway through and said, nope, we're done with this.
Yeah, we just said aloha to it.
Yeah, speaking of saying aloha to something, we have a film to talk about this week where, a son may have attempted to say aloha to his dad, and his dad may have tried to undo that aloha and may have taken some strange approach to trying to get back in touch with his son. Easing our way back into doing the podcast again. It's nice to sit down and have a good old wholesome family drama.
Yeah, exactly.
to talk about.
Fun for the whole family.
Yeah, especially fathers and sons who can get together and bond over something.
This really fits in the canon of sons and fathers reconnecting movies, like The Judge, Finding Nemo, arguably.
I feel like the Judge, wasn't that one of those films that we just constantly were referencing for the next year for reasons that are beyond my memory?
So. I think so, but I don't remember anything about that movie now, except for Robert Duvall being in it. Yep.
And I think there's a big climactic scene involving a hurricane or something, as the hurricane is also a metaphor for the family drama.
Yeah, to go back to Cameron Crowe, in my head, The Judge and Elizabethtown have morphed into the same movie, so I don't remember which is which anymore.
I only remember The Judge because I haven't seen Elizabethtown.
Oh, wow. How embarrassing for you. The cultural icon that is Elizabethtown.
Oh.
This is not even a disaster, Chris. This is a fiasco, which you would recognize if you watched Elizabethtown.
Cool. Well, if we're done shaving me for my lack of watching of Elizabethtown, are you ready to talk about this film, Stephen?
I was born ready.
All right. We're going to take a listen to the trailer for I Love My Dad, and then we're going to come back and give everybody a review.
Anyone else have anything they want to say? Franklin?
I took some steps in setting healthy boundaries and blocked my dad online. He's never really been there for me when I needed him, and I'm done with that.
Did you delete your profile? It's kind of the main way I was staying in touch with you.
My ex blocked me one time, and I just started a different page under a different name. I'll check it all the time. She never even knew. I just started a different page under a different name.
I met someone online. She's like smart, funny.
And you've like talked to her on the phone and stuff?
Obviously.
Soup. So, how's it?
So, how's it going?
Good.
This is creepy as...
This was your idea.
That was my ex-girlfriend. This is your child. I mean, what if he's already masturbating to this?
Would you be up for a quick phone call? It's just a little weird that we've never actually talked.
Could you call him and be the voice?
What are you wearing?
Sweatpants and a Red Sox shirt. What about you?
Just a dress. No panties.
This is incest.
No, it's not. I'm doing this to help him.
He thinks he's in a relationship.
This girl's the love of my life.
Keep your expectations low. She could be like mean or a scammer or your dad.
It's my girlfriend. One sec. Becca? Hello? Oh, hey, Becca? Hello. I'll call you in a little bit.
Not there, huh?
Can I pretend kiss you?
But you ask for my help, internet kiss your son.
That's gross!
Do you love him?
Yes!
Just kiss him already.
All right, so that was the trailer for I Love My Dad, and it is basically based on a true story from the writer and director and star of the film, about basically a time that his estranged father tried to get back in touch with him by catfishing him, and sort of the the experience he went through from that. Stephen Miller, what did you think of I Love My Dad?
So if I'm being super honest, like if I wanted to put my critic hat on, this definitely has festival vibes to me. This is like a South by Southwest movie. It definitely feels like a first-time director. You know, it's a little rough around some of the edges. Some of the themes, like depression, are folded in a way that don't like totally gel with like a full, complete movie. But I'm not putting my critic hat on. I'm putting my viewing hat on, and I thought this movie was hilarious. I really, really, really enjoyed this movie. So when we get to you can reveal what I tried to pull on you is have you not know the premise of this movie before you watched it. And I am so curious of what it would be like to go into this movie blind. I feel like it does reveal its premise very quickly, so you're not left too long wondering how it's going to escalate. But what I love is that this movie just completely goes for it. Like, this movie is not afraid of awkwardness, of discomfort. It amplified by the fact that the writer, director, star, James Morosini, this is based on a true story. Like, it isn't literally a true story. The details aren't true. And probably in real life, his dad didn't go as far as they decided to make his dad go here. But the fact that this is someone talking about their own life, their own relationship with their father, and they are willing to make it this unbelievably uncomfortable, I loved. I was just like giddy watching this movie. There are a few highlight scenes. I think this movie works best when it is doing the same thing that How I Met Your Mother did in the 3 Days Rule episode, if you remember that, where Marshall and Barney want to teach Ted that he shouldn't text a girl back after 3 days. So they program their own phone number in, and the visuals of that are very funny is when you see the juxtaposition between what the guy thinks he is texting with and then the real people he's texting with, and playing that in a way for ultimate discomfort. This movie has a few great scenes like that. There's a kiss scene that is wonderful, and let's say a chess sexting scene that I think is just chef's kiss, brilliant, fantastic. It's very funny, but it also does have a heart to it, even though it is a comedy, you know, more than like Shithouse, for instance. Like, this is very much a broad comedy, but for one thing, the dad, I think, despite being absolutely horrible in the movie, Patton makes him somehow be sympathetic, which I think is very impressive. Like, he shows at least how low and desperate you would have to get to do a thing like that, and he makes it rooted in his love for his son, even if what he does probably, if you were the son, could be legitimately unforgivable. It reminded me of Big Fan. I don't know if you've seen that, where Patton Oswalt stars there too. He's good at playing these, like, God, I really should just hate this character, but I feel bad for him. He's very good at finding that groove. I also think the way James kind of plays his own awkwardness as Franklin, this character, it does give me some Cooper Raiff vibes, in that he's like looking at himself and saying, wow, look at what a awkward, uncomfortable person I was and am, but look at how hard I'm trying. And I feel like there's something to the self-awareness that resonated as very true for me, even though he's a little bit older than Cooper. So like this movie...
a little bit?
Yeah. I know. Not quite Dear Evan Hansen levels of older, but yeah, it's there.
It sure as hell feels like it.
This movie is vague, I think, about how old he's supposed to be. So like, I think intentionally.
I want to talk about that a little bit. Because, like, there is an event, like, we are catching up with him after an event that has happened in his life. We don't know exactly how the relationship between him and his father sort of started to break apart. We just know there has been some sort of time jump. But there's all this, he constantly needs to ride places because he doesn't have a license, which makes me feel he's supposed to be playing a 16-year-old who just hasn't got his license yet, which is weird because he's 32 in real life.
Right.
And it feels like, I don't know if he wrote this, screenplay back when he was very young and has just been like working on it for like 20 years or whatever, but it feels, everything about who this character is seems like he is supposed to be a very, very young teenager. But every time he does, like, there's a scene where he is dancing on the street because something exciting has happened to him. And when I see that fully adult body trying to like dance in the way like a little teenager could, it just feels kind of weird and awkward. And not in the way
it feels like the finale of The Rehearsal.
No, it 100% looks like the one kid who just goes outside and vapes in between takes.
So I hear what you're saying. To me, I was able to fill it in where he is not a 16-year-old. He is a person who has had some troubles in his life, and so he hasn't left home. And because of those troubles, there are things that he has just never gotten to do, like learn to drive, and that is a thing to blame his dad for. Yeah. Of course, in my head, he wasn't 32 either, but I was like, he's like, he can be like 23. Like, I'll give him that. But even that was something I was comfortable with.
But even like there are parts in this film where he does get behind the wheel of a car, and it's treated as though, like, when you watch, like, they don't really do this as much nowadays, but back in the day in the early 90s, everything was like a young teen learning how to drive, and it's like like trying to not knowing how to drive and stuff. And I guess now that everybody has automatics, like, they just don't care about that being a trope in television or anything anymore. Right. But it's like, it's playing that way where this is literally the first time this kid has gotten behind a wheel. And I feel like as an adult, even if you don't really drive, it's pretty intuitive right off the bat. Like, you're like, okay, I get it if I don't like jerk the wheel in every direction. I mean, there's adults that can't drive after driving for like forever, but like, it just feels, It feels like they want him to be very young. And it kept weirding me out that I was like, I think he's trying to play like a 16-year-old, and I don't understand why he is a 32-year-old man.
Yeah, I will let you have your experience. To me, he plays as old as Cooper in Cha Cha Real Smooth plays, and in the same rut in life, or as like a Zach Braff in Garden State. Like, to me, it's all the same rough character and the same rough, like, early 20s thing, and I was okay with it. And yeah, some things weren't explained, but I was just like, that's not a 16-year-old, so I'm choosing to have that not be a 16-year-old. And I feel like even in a bar late in the movie, he is having a drink.
I think he's drinking a glass of water, though.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's fine.
Yeah. All I want to say is that I felt like there was a self-awareness to this movie and willingness to make... Because you could make this movie in a way where Patton is the comic, the comic character or whatever, and the kid is the straight man, right? The kid is just like, what the fuck is going on? He doesn't do that. He decides to be like, I am not only going to show my dad as being fucked up, I'm going to show myself as being emotionally stunted, awkward, very cringy, Marshall in high school with, braces or whatever. Like he's doing that kind of thing with the character. And I don't know why, something just rung earnest to me, where it didn't feel like just a broad stereotype. Like it felt like a personal story. And I liked it. I thought it elevated it above just being the cringe comedy. And it also made me feel something about how complicated relationship with parents can be, even when the parents are like doing horrific things. But ultimately, I just thought this was a really funny movie, and I respect a comedy that is willing to go as far as this is willing to go. So I had a good time.
Complaints about the age of the main actor, who is also the writer and director of the film, aside, I very much enjoyed this film. As you said, it's a rough around the edges in spots. There's a spot in the trailer where he texts sup and Patton reads it as soup. And I was like, come on, really? Like, it's like that's where we're at with our dialogue choices here. But besides that, like, I thought on the whole, it did feel pretty earnest, and it was an incredibly entertaining film. I think when it first started, I got a little bit worried, because one of the tropes I hate the most in any film is characters imagining another character being with them when they are alone. Most of the time the trope that really annoys me is when that person is dead and you're seeing like the live version of them again. So when it started to have like the girl there when he's texting, I was like, all right, you're gonna do this kind of thing. I'm not sure I'm down for this. But that is
you Mufasa me.
But that is so necessary for where the comedy goes in this film, because it's the jokes wouldn't land the same way if you aren't seeing that person physically in the space, and the way it flips that on its head as it goes throughout the whole thing. So I think that like it went from being a thing that I started out worried about to being a thing that I was like, oh my God, this is genius, and there's no other way you could tell this story. Like, it feels like that is the key to the way that this works. We get a sort of montage at the beginning of Patton Oswalt's character and why he's a bad dad, but our version of him being a bad dad is him just having excuses for not having been there, which feels like a very shorthand. Like, it's not like a film that the film Twitter loves, the film Hook. Right at the beginning of Hook, we see Robin Williams' character like choosing work over his kid constantly, and that's how we get to see why he's not there. In this, it's just him calling. There's never really an explanation for it. We don't know whether he's like truly a bad dude or he gets sucked into something else, because when we see him at his work, he clearly doesn't want to be there either. He's just hanging out at home. So I kind of wish there was more evidence to why he was bad, other than he was just overly trying to reconnect with a son who he clearly fell away from. And it's possible that like the other stuff that the son is dealing with, maybe there was stuff rolled up with the dad not being, who knows? Like, I don't know. It feels like I wanted a little bit more backstory to understand why Patton Oswalt is supposed to be a bad guy, other than his choices to catfish his son. I had, as funny as it is, like, it was definitely this is one of those things where like, it's hilarious, but it's also cringe when like you're just shaking your head like I'm basically his friend, right? Like his friend at work. While I'm like, that can't work. Oh my God, no, you're not. Oh, dude, there's
we
no
are
way.
all Lil Rel Howery.
yeah. And it's like there's so many points too where I was like, you have one out, and it's dependent upon another person, you confessing to that person and them playing along, and then the film takes that out as an option by introducing more information about who that person is. And it's just, I was like, oh man, there's nothing you can do now. You're just like, the only thing you can do is just admit to the situation and deal with the consequences. And just watching him dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the lie, and how like intense the situation begins to become with the game he's trying to play. I thought it was incredible. Like my only nitpicks is there's some times where the kid should have enough information to know something is wrong, but like he chooses to be like naive about the evidence that he has. Like there's a scene in the trailer that we just watched that involves trying to call a phone that might also be in the car with you.
God, I want to shout during that moment, like, put your phone on silent, but then the man who says soup probably doesn't know how to put his phone on silent.
But his phone was on silent, right? The sound we are hearing is like the buzz. I guess silent's different than vibrate, but yeah. But
yeah,
in another comedy, he would have just reached into his pocket and thrown the phone out the window or something.
Totally.
Like that.
Yeah, definitely. Franklin, the son, has a few moments where he has to, in a way that I think is believable if you are like in love and are trying to go on this grand romantic trip. Caution be damned. You don't want to see the red flags. That is certainly one of them. There are some times when Becca starts, apropos of nothing, talking about dads and how great dads are. In a way that honestly I think in terms of acting, other than Patton, the real MVP here is Claudia Sulewski, who plays Becca, because she has to at once just be the kind of like projection of his fantasies, so she has to be kind of a blank slate, but also she has to play straight all of this dialogue that is incredibly not what a woman of her age would actually be saying. I think she does a really, really good job with that. Joanna wants me to stress that she is currently dating Phineas, the brother of Billie Eilish, and that is important.
Good to know.
Yeah,
but yeah,
she wanted to tell you.
Yeah, she is incredible at the film. There is a scene where she has to not just be acting the physical manifestation of a conversation that is happening over text, but that conversation over text is happening while somebody's driving. So she is talking with the typos that might come if you were one-handed texting while driving, and it plays beautiful. I also love that, like, even if you thought that this could be in a good place as far as where the kid might fall in, where Franklin might fall in with this person he's being catfished with, I love that, like, every time he imagines her, she is like dressed more and more like provocatively.
Right.
So, well, you're just like, oh, come on, don't.
I know.
Like it telegraphs exactly where it's going the entire film, but it's just funny that, like, the first time you see her, it's like, oh, hey, I'm just here, and then, like, sweatshirt and everything, and like the next time you see her, it's like she is just midriff shirt in the middle of a beer cooler. It's like well, that caught on fast for him.
Well, he's a kid of a certain age. He has certain needs. Sometimes when someone pays attention to you. I was glad too, because the beginning of this movie, when the catfishing first begins, the dad, Chuck, basically copies Becca's profile, makes a new one, posts a few of the pictures with the same caption. They all, you can even see, have a timestamp of like 30 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, and has zero friends other than Franklin. And in my head for a minute, I was like, oh no, is this movie not going to even acknowledge how suspicious that is? But it does. I think it does an okay job of handling it in a way that I wonder if the real James had those suspicions at the beginning and then was talked out of it by the catfisher, or if this is wishful thinking of, like, this is what I should have thought.
I bet it's
when someone reached out to me.
Yeah, I bet it's a this is what I should have thought sort of situation. But it's also because, like I said, he's 32 now. So when if he really was 16 when this story was taking place, everybody's internet savviness might have been a little bit different back when he was that young. And like, because in my head, like, placing myself in the dad, because I'm closer to that age than the kid's supposed to be. In my head, when the excuse that the father tries to come up with, I was like, just say you deleted your account because somebody was stalking you. Like, be the exact thing you're doing. Like, that's the best way, is to tell the person the thing so they won't suspect that's the thing. I was like, come on, this is easy. What are you doing?
I do love early on when he's in the car with his mom and she's listening to an NPR story about catfishing.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
Yeah,
this
good
is so
stuff.
boring. He's like, this is boring. Oh, good times.
Yeah, good times. But to me, the real the pinnacles of this movie are the chess scene, which is just wonderful and laid up perfectly well. And my only regret, and I don't want to spoil the scene, but Patton has gone so far. Why not let the kid have it at this point? What line is that really crossing that hasn't been crossed already?
Oh.
But my number 2 scene in terms of everything just coming into place is kind of the climax of the movie, the final confrontation. I think it just lays it up so well. The dread you are feeling, like I was watching it like through my fingers, basically.
Yeah.
And I just think it does a really good job, and it is hard to earn that level of like comedic tension where you are just like, God, please don't do it. And I think the movie earns it and delivers, and then turns around and has a sweet little moment at the end that also is funny in its own way, but sweet too.
Well, one of the things that I like the most about like sort of that climax and everything that it's building towards is in like as we're watching it, the way everything is being framed, the only victim is the son. Right? Like that's sort of like the only thing that's at risk here is the relationship between the father and the son. But as that climax starts to come to a head and we realize that like, oh no, this isn't just creepy because he was catfishing his son. It's also creepy because he was just stealing all this chick's pictures off the internet and then creating his own profile and then communicating that out to the world. And it's like there are ramifications outside of just it's not a thing he did in isolation. You know, he didn't build a fake site that like he didn't actually fish and catfish his son, right? Like that there are ramifications for the decision to do what he's doing, and it affects other people if you don't come clean before those people walk into a situation where the other people aren't prepared for that situation. So I think that it plays with that, and it finally like unveils that there's more complication than just the weirdness of the scenario.
Right. HBO's The Rehearsal playing on Friday nights. if anyone wants to further unpack that feeling. But yeah, I hear you. I think it does a good job. It also is funny because the movie plays with your emotions because it knows how to strike the kind of festival indie movie chords. Some of them I think don't fully work. There's a swimming pool scene that like doesn't quite do for me what I can feel the, heartstring tugging indie festival movie wanting to do. But there's some that do work. Like there's one where he's having a conversation with his dad and he's kind of like coming around and warming up because he's realizing through Becca that parents are just trying their best. They're just like a fuck up who happened to have a kid and is now trying to do that. And I feel what I'm supposed to feel from a kind of classic festival movie of like, oh, that is sweet, And then I remember like his dad is literally Becca. Like the lesson is being taught by this like manipulative piece of shit. And it holds both of those so well. I think it manages to make you feel both because it personifies Becca in a way that you can forget for a while that everything being done is him. And I like that. But
it's also like yes, he has made a bunch of poor decisions, but he's not just a manipulative piece of shit, right? Like this film is the online relationship version of The Death of Dick Long, right? Where one really bad decision was made and now all they're doing is trying to cover it up and digging themselves in deeper, and like it's getting worse and worse and worse. But now, at this point it's out of control, right? There's no way to reverse time and go back to the beginning and go like, oh, no, sorry, everything's cool. I didn't mean it, right? I feel like he is like, he's trying, he's doing the only thing he can, and it's not like he's not taking pride or joy in manipulating his son, right? It's like it's his own what's the word I'm looking for? It's basically he has his own problems that he is working out, and this is the only way he can try to, and it's totally misguided and horrible, and he should have never done it. But it's not exactly like an evil, manipulative person trying to take advantage of another person, right? It's like
sure, not purely evil. Just to the manipulative point, I think that would be more true if he were only covering his ass after the inciting incident. But things where Becca is encouraging Franklin to have a better relationship with his dad are not covering his ass. That is furthering the manipulative agenda. That is like him not being able to help himself, right?
Yeah.
There's a point late in the movie where you think he's out, and then he doubles down back in. And there are just moments where it does become less of just this one bid to reconnect and then death of Dick Long style having to like cover your tracks, and more, you have like you would do this a third time if you had to.
Yeah.
At least that is the vibe I get from his character. And I don't hate him for it. You just like, you love how flawed he is, basically.
Yeah. But he's also trying to have the conversation he would have if his son would let him have that conversation, right?
Right, yeah, of course.
He's not like, it's not like he murdered one of his old girlfriends and he's like, sometimes dads just, murder your girlfriend and it's just like, you got to get used to it. Like, it's not, he's not being unreasonable with his trying to talk about, like, he is using real emotion with a fake scenario. I don't know. I'm not trying to justify his actions. They're terrible.
No. I agree with you. I agree with you. I just think that by any definition, he is manipulative. Like he has an agenda. Maybe the agenda he thinks is good because the agenda is make me be closer to my son. But the means cannot be justified.
Yeah. I think some of my favorite scenes is when he's looped his friend in and he's like, help me through this. And the friend's like, you wanted me to help. This is what you got to do. It's so good.
And I do love in this movie, there is no one who agrees with the dad. There's no one who is like, yeah, let's do it. Everyone, when they realize what is happening, is fucking horrified.
Yeah.
In a way that I like, literally the only person who gets it is James Morosini, and by extension, maybe the character of Franklin, who knows. But like, it almost seems like he is saying like, you and I get each other and the rest of the world doesn't get it. And at least that's the vibe I get from the movie on a whole existing.
It's still like, I get what the father is thinking, right? Like, there is this attractive, my son's age person who works at this cafe that I was at. He's more likely to accept a friend request from her than from any other random person that I could fake a profile for. But I still, like, he clearly didn't think further than that. Like, he's like, oh shit, I didn't think this was going to work. Now what do I do?
Yeah. Well, because the hubris is then messaging in perpetuity, right?
Yeah.
Because if the goal is just to be able to creep on their Facebook page, you got in, right? You're in. And you can just delay your text once a week for a while,
Remember, Stephen, when the son responds back, okay, blocking you now, that's when he was like, oh shit, I have to do something. I have to start a real conversation because otherwise he's going to think I'm just a creep. And
I'm just saying all you do then is phase out, right? Not phase out in a like complete way, but phase out in a way where it's like, send a message 2 days later and then 4 days later. Like, they're not going to remember to block you after that. They're just going to like fizzle.
Yeah. I just think, like it would have been harmless if he would have just grabbed some random photos from like somebody else in the games industry or something like that. That is something his son's into, but won't be too suspicious of.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, to be fair, this isn't even the first movie where a famous voice actor from a Pixar movie plays someone that we are supposed to like, despite doing a horrible kind of secret anonymous messaging thing where they have the upper hand because they know that they're manipulating the person, but the other person doesn't know it. But enough about You've Got Mail, which you should watch if you've never seen.
I was also wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah. It tracks. Watch You've Got Mail and then line it up against this movie.
All right.
Ask who is the more fucked up person. At least Patton doesn't literally try to get his son to fall in love with him.
Oh man. So let me ask you. I don't think it's worth doing a full spoiler review, but I do want to ask you a question about the last shot.
Yep.
Ambiguously, that is.
Is it about the expression on the face of the person in the last shot?
Yeah. Do you think that look is hopeful or triumphant in something that may or may not have been done?
I think the look is someone finding a way to connect by fucking with the other person, and there's a joy in the gamesmanship. So I think it is
both
intentionally ambiguous, basically.
Yeah, I think in my head the first time I watched it, I was like but before the look happens, just when the shot is slowly panning, I was like, that's nice. And then there was the little smile, and I was like,
it's a little bit more devilish.
Was it not? Yeah. Was it not that nice?
Yeah, I think it is the niceness, but it's nice with a bite to it. It's nice in a like, hey, here's the one way we can connect is we can like both shit on each other. but it's like light. It's enjoying the antagonism, basically.
Yeah. Cool.
And I think kind of you could say that smile is the moment he decides he's going to write a screenplay.
I want to imagine too that in the real life situation that he made this movie and invited the dad to a test screening without any context for what the movie was about. Like it had
the title.
It had a different title, even maybe. Yeah. And then he sits down to watch this movie and just like being. I want to hope that he did a test screening, friends and family, maybe some other folks in there, and then started by saying, "Here's my film. I hope you enjoy it. My family is here to watch this with," made the dad wave or something like that, and then sat down and played the film and just have the dad sit there going like, "Oh God," and I can't leave because there's like an auditorium of people, like he just front row, dead center, and then just made him sit through the test screening of it.
I want to believe that happened.
Oh man. All right. Well, any last thoughts, Stephen, before we get into our verdicts here?
I don't think so. I only feel bad that anyone who listened to this episode knows way more about the movie than you did going into it. And I think this is a movie to kind of just dive into.
I think to that point, I definitely avoided everything, but I feel like the plot is introduced so early on in the film that I wasn't like if you're watching the trailer and you're seeing the visual gags that go along with the auditory gags, I think maybe there's a little bit of spoiler action there just for how funny some of these moments will be. But I didn't like, if I would have read the description, I wouldn't have felt that spoiled because it's like right from the beginning that the dad is like, well, time to start making this profile. And then I was like, oh, okay, I get it. So yeah, I think I would have been okay if I would have known anything. But yeah, different people might feel differently. But for now, let's go ahead and get to our verdicts. Stephen Miller, if you were going to give us a must-see, recommend with the caveat, wait for until past the caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
So a few days ago, Carson Patrick texted me, and he said he found his Cooper Rafe, and it's James Morosini. And I can't fully get on board that way. Like, this movie didn't make me cry, right? This movie didn't do the thing. It wasn't that tier for me.
Yeah.
But for sheer joy of watching it and the squirminess and watching Joanna squirm along with it, and the fact that I think it 100% sticks the landing, it doesn't like deflate halfway through. Like, I think it is pretty evenly spaced in terms of its tense moments, and it knows how to escalate appropriately.
Yeah.
I think it's a must-see movie. I think for a comedy with just the premise alone, you're like, oh shit, that is going to be good. And then to deliver on a premise that good is impressive. And I had a blast. So I think anyone should watch this movie. Be prepared to be uncomfortable, but I think you will get a lot out of it.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a must see as well. I thought it was, I keep jokingly complaining about the age of James, but it didn't actually bother me that much in the context of the film. I was more distracted by the fact that he looks like a combination between Tobey Maguire and the guy from Red Rocket.
Sure.
But yeah, I thought it was it was I had a great time watching this film, and I think it's fun to just watch it, just the situation become more and more deeply entrenched in the horribleness of what is going on, and just to watch it's just this slow motion train wreck that you can't look away from, and you're just like, no, this is your one chance. Nope. Okay, cool. Now you have one more. Nope. Okay, you're gonna go for it. All right. Okay. And yeah, I think it's I was talking with Jamie about various parts of the film at dinner after I'd watched it, and she just said, all right, could you just play me a bunch of these scenes that you were talking about? So I just ran her through a bunch of the scenes, and she enjoyed watching that stuff. So I think it's a crowd pleaser.
Yep. I'm still trying to piece together your him being a cross between Simon Rex from Red Rocket and Tobey Maguire. I guess he got the boyish good looks and playing younger than his real age from Tobey Maguire, and he got masturbating on camera from Simon Rex.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I feel like he physically embodies sort of Simon Rex a little bit.
Sure.
But he's got like Tobey Maguire's facial features and emoting.
Yeah, I gotcha.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our review of I Love My Dad. Stephen Miller, if people want to find you throughout the week, where can they do that?
People can find me at twitter.com/sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherRealLife.com or Twitter.com/ChristopherIRL. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so in Overcast, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know the episodes go live, you can follow us at Twitter.com/SpoilerWarning, Facebook.com/TheSpoilerWarning, or Instagram.com/TheSpoilerWarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you're enjoying that. And yeah, I think we're back. We have to figure out what's coming out this weekend. But we're going to be back with another episode next week. Hopefully you enjoyed this one, and hopefully you enjoyed this film if you've seen it. And if you haven't, sounds like you should go see it, because it's a fun one. But yeah, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.